What a wonderful worship experience. Good morning, everyone. Morning, praise God. We are all here again. I'm thanking the Lord for bringing me home safe and sound. I arrived last Wednesday evening, and maybe you're wondering why is his hair like that. It has nothing to do with any frustrating experience in the past there in America, okay? I just like this haircut for this moment. I would like to read the Word of God from the book of Genesis chapter 28. Beginning with verse 10. Genesis chapter 28, verses 10 up to 22. I'll read from the New American Standard Bible. It says here, Then Jacob departed from Beersheba and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place and spent the night there, because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of the place and put it under his head, and lay down in that place. He had a dream, and behold, a ladder was set on the earth with its top reaching to the heavens. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give it to you, and to your descendants. Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, and to the north and to the south, and in you and in your descendants shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and I will keep you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. He was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on its top. He called the name of the place Bethel or Bethel. However, previously the name of the city had been Luz. Then Jacob made a vow saying, If God will be with me and will keep me on this journey that I take, and will give me food to eat and garments to wear, and I return to my father's house in safety, then the Lord will be my God. This stone which I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you. May the good Lord bless the reading of His words. Last Friday evening, we were already on our bed past the hour of 9. But suddenly, there was a blackout that reminded me that I am already in Zamboanga City. And so, we waited for the electricity to come back. 1 hour had passed. There was no electricity still. It was already past the hour of 10. 2 hours later, 11 o'clock, still there was no electricity. Our little boy who had been asleep already for 2 hours was feeling the warm temperature of the room that time. He began complaining. He did not like the situation. He kept on moving until he began crying. And so that disturbed us already. My wife and I tested the temperature outside our room, and it was still warm at the living room. And so as a father, I tried to find a solution. The only solution I had in mind was get inside the car and put on the car until the electricity would come back. So that's what we did. My wife and I, with our 2 children, went inside the car and switched it on. We put on the aircon, pero nagtira kami ng konting puwang sa window kasi baka masuffocate. I did not sleep. I tried to stay awake because I was watching our children. My wife also was awake with me. But later we were so tired already that we really wanted to sleep. Suddenly, our little boy stood up. He was relaxed already and comfortable because it was cold already. He suddenly stood up and he realized that he was no longer in the room. Have you experienced that you slept somewhere and you woke up, you were in a different place? So he was really wondering what kind of place was that, and it was very dark, and I could see that he was scared. And you know what I did? I touched his chest, and I told him, relax, Daddy is here. Just lie down. And he lied down again without saying anything, and he snored after a few seconds. Why did he feel like that? Because nobody wanted to be alone in a dark place, especially a child, even an adult. Not only in a dark place, reality is that you and I do not like to be alone. It's a sad situation to be alone. It's a sad situation to journey in this life with nobody around you. We always want someone beside us. Nobody wants to be alone. One time I read on my Facebook wall a post of a friend saying, I am so bored, I am going to watch a movie. Anybody there who wants to go with me, I will pay for your ticket. That really expresses a frustration and a boredom that he wanted to be with someone. Because that's a reality. Nobody wants to be alone. What happened in the text that we read was Jacob was sent away from their home, and he started a journey alone. Why did that happen? Going back to the earlier part of the story, Jacob was born with a brother, Esau. Esau was born first, came out first of the mother's womb. That is why he was the firstborn, and he was entitled to the birthright. But one day, after he went out for a hunting, he came home hungry. And so, that time, Jacob was cooking something as stew. And when he arrived there, probably he smelled it, and Esau said, Jacob, bro, can I have some stew? And sabi naman ni Jacob, no problem, you can have, with a condition. You have to sell to me your birthright. Wais din tong si Jacob. Sabi ni Esau, I am hungry, I'm famished. I would give it to you. So he gave his birthright away. Now the birthright is on Jacob. Later, Isaac told his son Esau. Probably that time he knew already that Esau sold his birthright. So this time he told Esau, sabi ni Isaac, Esau, I want you to go out and hunt and cook something for me and bring it to me so that I can release my blessings to you. And so, ginawa ni Esau. Problema lang, Rebekah, the mother of Jacob, heard it. And so Rebekah went to Jacob and told him, son, I want you to receive the blessing of your father. So get something for me, I'll cook it and then bring it to your father. Because that time, Isaac could no longer see clearly. So maybe he could still see a shadow or a shade of the person, but he could no longer identify the details of the person's appearance. So sabi ni Rebekah, okay, you get something. And they did that. So Jacob brought that something to Isaac. And Isaac released his blessing to Jacob instead of giving it to Esau. So remember these two important events. He got already the birthright, and now he got the blessing. When Esau found this out, he was so furious that in chapter 27 of Genesis, you would find out that Esau even thought of killing his own brother. He hated him so much. That is why in chapter 28, verse 10, Jacob was called and he said, Isaac told him, I want you to marry not a Canaanite woman, but I want you to marry somebody from where your great-great-grandfather came from. And that is why when you look at verse 10, it starts with a journey. Then Jacob departed Beersheba and went toward Haran. Haran is already outside of the promised land. It's in the northern part. You look at Israel, if this is the Sea of Galilee, this is the Dead Sea. Outside of the northern part of Israel, there you would find Haran. It's outside of the promised land. And for a Jew back in those days, they wouldn't like the idea of stepping out of the promised land, because the promised land is the location where God pours out His blessing, where God would show His protection for His children against the enemies. So if you were a Jew back then, it is not a good idea for you to step out of the promised land. But Jacob, because of what he had done, because of the deceptions that he performed in the earlier chapter, then he was forced to step out of the promised land and find a wife from where his great-grandfather came from. And so the journey started. Nobody wants to be alone, but Jacob was alone. And he continued his journey, and in verse 11, it describes about a place. He came to a certain place. Take note that the adjective used here, or the word used to describe the place, is not very specific. It was just described by the word certain. And when the Bible does not describe the place according to its name, then it tells us that it is not really that significant. So this place where Jacob stopped, because the sun already set, was not significant after all. And what happened? He was there at that certain place and spent the night there. Nobody wanted to be alone, but he was alone in that uncertain in that certain place. What happened next? His evening there was described in the text, and he took one of the stones of the place and put it under his head. Nobody wants to be alone, but Jacob was alone in that certain place, with no bed, no blanket, no pillow, no one surrounding him. But this guy is gifted. He used a stone to have a pillow. I said he is gifted because I could not sleep with a stone on my head. Under my head, I mean. It's hard. I can tolerate a bamboo on my back. I can sleep with a cement floor. It's okay with me. As long as I have a soft thing on my head, I can sleep. I cannot also sleep while sitting down. That's why those of you who can sleep while the sermon is going on, that's a gift. It's a gift. I cannot do that. That's why coming from LA, nakaupo ako doon. Hindi pa umalis yung plane. Yung tao sa kabilang aisle, parang din siya makina din ng eroplano. Tumutunog na. Sabi ko, gifted tong taong to. But I cannot sleep while sitting down. Jacob is gifted. He can sleep even with a stone under his head. And added to that, he had a dream. Imagine this. You were alone in a journey, in a certain place, insignificant place, and you were not accommodated well because you didn't have a bedroom, no pillow, no blanket, not even a bed, and nobody is surrounding you. And he was able to sleep. And he had a dream. His dream went like this, verse 12. And behold, a ladder was set on earth with its top reaching to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord your God, the God of your fathers. So he saw this in a dream, and I believe many commentators would agree in this idea that it had a ladder that represents the connection of heaven and earth, that God intervenes in the affairs of His children on earth, that God sends angels to intervene and send angels as messengers, as warriors, as protectors. And God was standing on the top of that ladder, saying that I am in control of all things. But more than anything else, more than those things that Jacob saw, that figure, that God standing on the top of the ladder said something to him. Look at what God said. I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. The land which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants. Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And in you and in your descendants shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and I will keep you wherever you go. Nobody wants to be alone. But Jacob was alone in that certain place, insignificant location, without anybody surrounding him, without good accommodation. And yet it was really great because somebody appeared to him and not only showed himself to him, and that this somebody who appeared to him said something. He said, I am with you. That is why if you continue reading the passage, Jacob rose up early in the morning. He woke up, behold, I am with you. After that, in verse 16, then Jacob awoke from the sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. Who would have thought that the God would appear in that certain place, insignificant place? And yet what happened next? This is how he described it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? When will you use the word awesome to describe a place? I think you would use that word if the place is reaching the level of perfection in your own idea. That you visit a hotel and everything is so arranged, so elegant, and you would say, awesome. Or probably you visit a garden with flowers really blooming, properly trimmed, and everything was there already, and you say, awesome. But how can this person describe that place as awesome when there was nobody there? He did not have a bed, no pillow, and he used a stone. It was awesome because God appeared to him and God told him, I am with you. The journey, it may not be as pleasant before your eyes as you wanted it to be. It may not be so accommodating to you like angels in heaven would accommodate you when you get there. It may not be a first class or 5-star hotel. The journey may be difficult. It may be accompanied by darkness. It may be a moment where you don't have a pillow beneath your head. There might be no blanket to cover you from the coldness of the night. But when God appears to you and tells you that in this journey, I am with you, then that journey is awesome. Amen? Awesome. Because God's presence was with Jacob. So early in the morning, Jacob rose up and took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar, poured oil on it from the top. And he said, he called the name of the place Bethel, or house of God. Beth, house, El, God, a generic name for God in the ancient days. Bethel. However, previously, now the place is named. However, the place is previously named as Luz. Almond tree. That's the meaning of the term Luz. So kung may kakilala kang pangalang Luz, almond tree in those days. Now it was mentioned. Why is it mentioned? Because that place, formerly called Luz, before it was insignificant, but this time it turned out to be a very significant place in the history of Israel because it has been named now as the house of God. It's called Bethel. And don't you know that when you look at the scriptures from the Old Testament, first book in the Old Testament, Genesis, up to the book of Revelation, Bethel was multiply mentioned next to Jerusalem. Mentioned multiple times because now it shows its significance, not because it is a place of trade, a place where people would gather, but it was a place where God revealed himself in the journey of Jacob. It became significant. And what happened next? Now Jacob used the stone beneath his head, erected it to become a pillar. That is why I entitled the message, From Pillow to Pillar. Because God used, used that stone to erect there as a symbol where he can look back and point at this portion of his story that there was a God who has been with him in that journey. And what happened during this time was he was there. He erected the stone. He came from Beersheba. He was proceeding to the place called Haran. And along this journey in that place, he erected a stone, and then he continued with his journey moving to Haran. He did not stop there. He continued with his journey. But I believe if you read further, he had a lot of difficult times in his journey. There were difficult moments. He dealt with difficult people, I believe. And you know what happened? He continued, he moved on, he never stopped. And why did he never stop? Even if there were difficult situations in life, because there is something that he can look back in the past. When he looked back in that place called Luz before, there was a stone he erected, because in that place, God appeared to him and God told him, Jacob, in this journey, I am with you. So whatever hardship that may come into his life, even if darkness would envelop him, even if the world would come and fall down before him, he knew that there is God who has been with him, and he will continue with his journey, and he will never stop until he gets there, because God promised him to be with him. The trouble, the journey is awesome. Nobody wants to be alone. But when you found out that even if there is nobody standing beside you, and yet the Lord of the heavens comes to you and tells you, I am with you. While I was in Kentucky, I had a chance to talk again with Reverend and Mrs. Otis. They brought me to a restaurant and we had our lunch there. Dinner together. I thought it was a lunch because even if it was evening already, the sun was still there. So we had our dinner together, and I asked them a question. What were some extraordinary experiences that you had before when you were missionaries to the Philippines? They mentioned a lot. But one time, along in our conversation, they mentioned the Walton. He said, one time, this missionary was kidnapped. And then he was brought to the camp of the rebels. He was placed inside a small cage. Imagine that, an American placed inside a small cage. He couldn't move. He thought he would die already. And you know what happened? One day, somebody whom he knew does not belong to the rebels came to him. And this person told him, God is with you. You have been thinking that you will die in this place. That will never happen because God will set you free. He was fascinated because as this person talked to him, he noticed that nobody was seeing this person, only him. Later, he was released. And he never forgot that person who told him, you will never die here because God is with you. The journey may be difficult. It may be a place so small for you. There might be no pillow to accommodate you, no blanket to cover your body from the coldness of your surrounding. But so long that God would whisper to you, I am with you, the journey is worth the go. Nobody wants to be alone. But nobody is alone if you are a child of God. Because God is with you. I love the song written by Matt Redman. He entitled it Never Once. And he said in that song, never once would we ever walk alone. Never once would you leave us on our own. You are faithful. God, you are faithful. And that is the truth that God is conveying to you and to me today. You may have been abandoned by your children because you are at your old age already. You may be feeling abandoned or alone because your company has laid you off or kicked you out already because they think that you are no longer useful in their company. You may be feeling that way. You may be feeling that nobody cares for you. But so long that in this journey that you are in right now, God has whispered to you, I am with you. It's worth the go. Don't stop. Don't stop. Because that God who told you that He is with you is faithful, and we will bring forth His word into a reality in each one's life. So this time I'm inviting every one of you to respond to the Lord in praise, to respond to the Lord in gratitude as we sing this love song to Him, okay? So I am inviting every one of you to stand as the praise team would lead us, saying, Lord, thank you for this declaration that you have given. Never once that your children would walk alone, because our God, who is faithful, is always with us. Good morning and God bless you all.